headlines for tonight. President Marcos declares a state of national calamity due to Typhoon Tino and Tropical Storm Uwan.
Filipinos express lower trust and satisfactions to the President and Vice President Sara Duterte, according to Octa research.
Congressman Paulo Duterte firmly denies red flag flood control projects in Davao City.
Israel receives another hostage's body from Gaza amid US-backed ceasefire.
Good evening, bringing you the latest news for tonight. I am ALVIN PELOBELLO.
And I am KRIZZA Lopez. This is Eurotv News Thread. The details on our broadcast. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved the recommendation to place the country under a state of calamity due to the widespread effects of Typhoon Tino.
The President's decision has authorized the agencies to mobilize all existing assets of the government. Graciela Corazon has the report.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has approved the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRRMC to place the entire Philippines under a state of national calamity following the widespread devastation caused by Typhoon Tino. The declaration also serves as a preparatory measure for a potential impact of other weather disturbance Tropical Storm Fungwong, which is expected to enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR this coming weekend and will be named Typhoon 11 Isdas. It is expected to reach the super typhoon category and make landfall in northern or central Luzon. According to President Marcos, the massive damage left by Typhoon Tino has affected 10 to 12 regions nationwide, with the possibility of further impact from the incoming storm. This prompted him to approve the NDRRMC's recommendations to ensure the safety and welfare of the public.
Of the scope of, shall we say, problem areas that will be hit, that has been hit by Tino and will be hit by Uwan, there was a proposal from the NDRMC, which I approved, that we will declare a national calamity, because ilang regions na yan, there will be almost 10 regions, 10-12 regions that will be affected. So pagka ganun karami, ganun ang scope, then we will really have to, then it is a national calamity. So that.
The President also emphasized that he will not abandon the provinces most heavily affected by the typhoon, particularly Cebu, until they have fully recovered from the disaster. Relief and recovery operations continue in the hardest hit areas, with government uniformed personnel already on standby to provide assistance to those affected.
Sa response natin sa Typhoon Tino, mabigat talaga ang pagkatama sa Cebu. Actually, Region 6, 7, 8, Mimaropa, umabot sa Negros Island region, kasi dahil tumawid ang Tino, and the damage is heavy. And so but we are doing our usual relief and support activities para lahat ng mga na-displaced, lahat ng naging biktima ay matutulungan natin ng pamahalaan, together with national government, together with the first responders, of course the LGUs. Maayos naman. The only problem is that napakalakas ng Tino.
Marcos added that the government is also preparing the necessary assistance and resources ahead of Typhoon 1 expected entry into the country. Meanwhile, the death toll from Typhoon Tino has risen to 114, with around 127 individuals still reported missing. disaster response and relief efforts remain ongoing on all affected regions. This is KRIZZA for Eurotv News.
Following the declaration of a nationwide state of calamity, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is taking advantage of it by using government assets to intensify the relief efforts. Moreover, the agency is set to request 625 million pesos for its Quick Response Fund replenishment. Here's more.
Following President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s approval of a state of calamity declaration in areas severely affected by Typhoon Tino, the government is expected to deliver faster and more efficient disaster response operations. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, has already moved to request an additional 625 million pesos from the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, to augment its Quick Response Funds, or QRF. The funds will be used for emergency cash transfers and replenishment of family food packs. According to Assistant Secretary for Disaster Response Management and DSWD spokesperson Irene Dumlao, the agency still has a 627 million pesos standby fund, along with over 2 million preposition of family food packs stored in various regional warehouses. However, given the massive scale of devastation left by the typhoon, the DSWD is seeking additional 625 million pesos to ensure uninterrupted relief operations. Dumlao said this is the 10th replenishment request for their Quick Response Fund this year.
Alam niyo po, mabilis naman po yung action na ginagawa ng DBM in terms of replenishing our quick response funds. In fact, umabot na nga po tayo sa 9th QRF replenishment, and as I mentioned earlier, we're now in the process of submitting our request for the 10th QRF replenishment. Batay po doon sa aming experience last year, nakapag-request din po kami, umabot din kami sa 10th QRF replenishment, but papaubos na yung QRF fund natin last year. But ito nga, dahil nagkaroon ng national state of calamity, madadagdagan yung ma-access po natin yung ALVIN fund, mare-replenish yung QRF, and hindi po mai-interrupt yung pong pagtulong natin sa ating mga kababayan because funds.
Following the declaration of a state of calamity, Dumlao emphasized that this will allow the SWD to mobilize other government assets to expedite food distribution and logistical support to affected areas. She explained that the QRF is utilized not only for family food packs production but also for the procurement of other essential needs that are not included in standard relief goods. In addition, the QRF also funds emergency cash transfers to families whose livelihoods and properties were severely affected by the typhoon.
Request ang mga local government units na ito ng emergency cash transfer or financial assistance, we will have to implement ECT, provided of course that the required trigger mechanisms are present. Unang-una, for ECT to be activated kasi, dapat may declaration ng state of calamity. Dapat po nakalagay o nakareflect doon sa situational report ng mga local government units na marami pong mga pamilya ang severely or slightly affected, and there's already market operability, and ECT is identified as one of the interventions to support the early recovery of those who have been affected by the disaster. So if
Dumlao assured that the SWD personnel will continue round-the-clock relief operations in coordination with local government units. As of 6 o'clock a.m. today, the SWD data shows 10,564 families were affected in Cebu's, with 5,564 currently staying in evacuation centers. In Leyte, 1,953 individuals were affected, with 1,994 still in shelters. The Negros Occidental province recorded 14,161 affected families, or over 61,000 individuals. Meanwhile, more than 11,000 residents were affected in the Nagat Islands. To date, the SWD has also distributed 195,152 family food packs to affected regions. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotvphilippines.
The Department of Interior and Local Government has ordered all local governments to brace for the possible impact of Typhoon 1, which may intensify into Super Typhoon as it enters the Philippine area of responsibility. Catherine Landicho tells us more.
Department of the Interior and Local Government orders local government units to prepare for the approaching of Super Typhoon 1. The Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG has directed all local government units or LGUs to prepare for the possible impact of a powerful typhoon to be named Uwan, which is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility or PAR this week. According to the latest reports from Weather Authority, the weather disturbance currently classified as a tropical depression may intensify into a super typhoon in the coming days. It is protected or projected to make landfall this week, potentially bringing wind signal number 5 and causing severe damage across part of northern and central Luzon. The DA also urged LGUs to clear drainage systems and waterways, inspect roads and bridges, and ensure the evacuation centers have adequate supplies. Local disaster risk reduction and management councils have likewise been instructed to prepare for possible preemptive evacuations in area expected to be heavily affected by the typhoon. Emergency response teams and rescue units must be on full alert, while rescue equipment and relief goods should be prepositioned for immediate distribution once the typhoon makes landfall. This is Catherine Landicho for Eurotv News.
After the devastating attack of Typhoon Tino, another of potential super typhoon may enter the Philippine area of responsibility by Friday. Pag-asa reports that future Typhoon Uwan was slightly intensified while heading the Philippines. More from this report.
As future Typhoon Uwan, internationally known as Fungwon, moves closer to the Philippines, it has slightly intensified according to Pag-asa. As of 2 o'clock p.m., the weather disturbance was located 1,660 kilometers east of northeastern Mindanao, still outside the Philippine area of responsibility. It currently packs maximum sustained winds of 75 km per hour and a gustiness reaching up to 90 km per hour. Moving northwestward at 10 km per hour. Based on Pag-asa's latest track and intensity forecast, future Typhoon Uwan is expected to enter the Philippine territory by Saturday night. Pag-asa estimates that the storm may intensify into a typhoon by Friday and further develop into a super typhoon by Saturday. Pag-asa estimates that the typhoon may intensify into a typhoon by Friday and further develop into a super typhoon by Saturday. The Weather Bureau added that there is a high possibility of landfall over northern or central Luzon by Monday, November 10. Pag-asa also warned that tropical cyclone wind signal number 5 may be raised in some areas due to the strength of the typhoon. As early as now, the public is being strongly advised to prepare for the possible impact of the approaching storm and to closely monitor updates from local government units and Pag-asa. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotv News.
The Department of Agriculture assured the public that Typhoon Tino's onslaught will not affect the country's rice supply. However, the agency raised concern over corn production, with more than 33,000 hectares of cornfields reportedly damaged. More from Vanessa Cleophas.
The Department of Agriculture or DA assured that the onslaught of Typhoon Tino will have no impact on the country's rice supply following its landfall in the Visayas and Mindanao. According to the DA, even before the typhoon fully hit, the rice harvest in the affected provinces, which serve as sources of other rice supplies, had already been completed. The agency also noted that most of the regions affected by the typhoon are not included in their list of rice-producing areas. In fact, the National Food Authority or NFA is set to distribute 2.6 million bags of rice to local government units and other agencies conducting relief operation for those affected by the typhoon. However, while there
there are no expected problems with rice, the agency is concerned about corn supply as 33,000 hectares of cornfields were damaged. Meanwhile, the DA has instructed its regional offices to conduct a rapid damage assessment in preparation for a potentially strong typhoon expected to hit the northern Luzon this weekend. This is Vanessa Cleofas for Eurotv News.
4 months after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. exposed alleged anomalies in ghost and defective flood control projects, public trust in the country's top leaders has continued to slide. Octa Research latest tugon ng masa survey shows both Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte recording lower trust and satisfaction ratings in the third quarter of 2025. Mia Layagin has the details.
4 months have passed since President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. exposed the anomalies tied with the defective and ghost flood control projects. Since then, other anomalies and widespread corruption within the government have been consecutively exposed as the investigation progresses. Amid investigation versus corruption, these exposé cannot reverse its impact on Filipinos' trust towards the country's leaders, particularly towards President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte. Based on Octa Research's latest survey, both Marcos and Duterte's trust and satisfaction scores dropped during the third quarter of 2025. Tugon ng Masa survey recorded 57% trust scores for Marcos, showing a decline from July's 64%. Marcos remains highly trusted in balanced Luzon with 67%, followed by National Capital Region with 55%. Consequently, Marcos's distrust is placed at 25%, the largest coming from Mindanao, while 17% were undecided. Marcos's performance scores were placed at 54% from July 62%, while 26% were dissatisfied. Despite these results, the Malacanang Palace expressed gratefulness that majority of Filipinos still trust the administration.
Yung majority po ay nandun pa rin po yung kanilang trust sa ating Pangulo. Sabi nga po natin, ano man ang numero, mataas mababa, at hanggat nagtatrabaho ang ating Pangulo at ang gobyerno para sa taong bayan, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po at hindi po tayo maaapektuhan ng anumang pong numero.
On the other hand, BP Sara's trust and satisfaction scores also slightly declined, placed at 51% from the 54% in July. Mindanao, the known territory of the Dutertes, gave BP Sara her highest trust scores with 84%. Her performance scores also declined by 1% but is now lower than majority. The survey was conducted on September 30 to October 4 through face-to-face interviews with 1,200 respondents. This is Mia Layagin for Eurotv News.
The palace assures that President Marcos will not use his influence and will let his statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth or SALN be publicized after Akbayan Party List requested the Office of the Ombudsman to release the SALNs of the highest officials in the government. More from this report.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will not hinder public release of his statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth or SALN, according to a Malacanang official. According to the Palace Press Officer and Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro, critics are advised to wait for the Office of the Ombudsman's official response regarding the release of the President's SALN. This came after the Akbayan Party List and several groups filed a request before the Office of the Ombudsman to release the SALN of President Marcos, Vice President Sara Duterte, former Ombudsman Samuel Martires, and other officials of the constitutional commissions. According to Attorney Claire Castro, the President is willing to make his SALN public and submit it to the proper authorities. It may be recalled that Marcos had earlier expressed openness to release his SALN and said he would encourage his cabinet members to do the same as part of his commitment to government transparency. Recently, Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla issued a memorandum removing the previous restrictions on accessing the SALNs of public officials to promote greater transparency. Under the new guideline, it is no longer necessary to obtain the consent of the public official before their SALN can be released. The memorandum covers the President, Vice President, heads of constitutional offices, and local government officials, as the Office of the Ombudsman serves as the official repository of the SALNs of such officials. Based on the directive, requests for copies of SALNs may be filed with the Public Assistance and Corruption Prevention Office of the Ombudsman Central Office or through the regional and sectoral office of the agency. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotv News.
Amid the continuous illegal activities of China in the West Philippine Sea, President Marcos assures that the Philippines will abide the international ruling. A few days after he met Chinese President Xi Jinping, here's the details.
President
Plus
Ferdinand
nagawad naging
Marcos.
Parang
Hold on.
Nang?
ng DBS.
Nag-present pa naman si Bongo.
Sino?
Si Bongo nag-present tayo.
International in the speech emphasized Lucas through a statement on the sea. The president said this few days after he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in Korea as an assertion of the Philippines' position in the West Philippine Sea. At the same time, he declared that the Philippines will remain in compliance with the international law, particularly the 2016 Arbitral Award and the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS.
We gather once more with conviction that peace, stability, and the rule of law must never just be an option in our maritime region, but rather these must always prevail.
The Philippines will also not hesitate to open line communication with China and other ASEAN claimants in the South China Sea to maintain the peace and cooperation.
Yet we understand that the concerns we face in this modern age continually and rapidly evolve. Technology and tactics have become more complex, even as transparency and accountability have come to the fore.
China continues to claim its 9-dash line as well as the country's exclusive economic zone. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration awarded the Philippines rights to the West Philippine Sea, something that China continues to deny.
Yet, this lifeline is threatened by illegal activities, excessive claims, over-exploitation, and environmental degradation.
This is ALVIN PELOBELLO for Eurotv News. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved the Department of Education's Plus D program, a 6-year nationwide initiative aimed at recovering learning losses among early grade students. The 38 billion peso project supported by the World Bank will benefit 11,000 schools and 21 million students from the kindergarten to grade 10. Vanessa Cleophas returns.
The Department of Education, or DepEd, will begin the implementation of Plus D program that aims to address the learning losses among the students, especially in the early grades. This follows its approval by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. together with the Economic and Development Council. The Project for Learning Upgrade Support and Decentralized, or Plus D program, will focus on the nationwide learning acceleration program for 11,000 schools across various regions in the country, targeting 21 million students from kindergarten to grade 10. The program will be implemented over 6 years and will be funded with over 34.79 billion pesos from the World Bank and 3.47 billion pesos from the government funds, with support from the Department of Economy, Planning and Development, or DepDev. As part of the Learning Recovery Initiative under Plus D, the program will strengthen the implementation of the Academic Recovery and Accessible Learning, or ARAL program in selected schools. It will also empower teachers and local leaders to decide how to address learning gaps based on the specific needs of their students. Plus D will also provide funding to schools to support interventions and reforms they will implement. The program also aims to increase the number of teachers in schools and provide them with laptops under the existing computerization program. Under the Plus D, DepEd will establish performance-based accountability to ensure that the program produces tangible results in every participating schools. Schools to be included in the Plus D program will be selected based on their readiness indicators, including their capacity for planning, financial management, and school governance system. This is Vanessa Cleophas for you.
Davao 1st District Representative Paulo Duterte has strongly denied allegations of red flag flood control projects in his district, challenging Actitude's party list Representative Antonio Tino to personally inspect the projects in Davao City. Mia Layagin has more.
Davao 1st District Representative Paulo Pulong Duterte dared ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino to go to Davao and see for himself the flood control projects in the region. This follows Tino's recent allegations of red flag flood control projects in the district. In a statement, Duterte argued that Davao has nothing to hide and that all projects were validated and inspected by Department of Public Works and Highways and of Commission on Audit. He emphasized that there are no ghost projects in Davao and all projects and structures are built and is existing. He likewise criticized Tino over dragging Davao into the political drama with baseless accusations. The lawmaker said that if what they seek is accountability, then the investigation should start on Luzon with various ghost and substandard projects instead of dragging Davao. Duterte also called out the Independent Commission for Infrastructure to conduct inspection in Davao over flood control projects, arguing that real and credible people should investigate rather than retired police and recycled appointees. On Thursday, Tino responded to Duterte emphasizing that this is not a political drama. Tino noted that the data he presented were from the data of DPWH itself and that even ICI have inspected a collapsed flood control project in Davao River. In his defense, Tino said that the point of these allegations is not about whether the projects were existing, rather if it is built on its supposed location, if it is in line with its supposed specifications to hold off floods, and if the funds were used properly or not. Tino reiterated his plans to file a resolution to hold a congressional inquiry on these alleged anomalies in Davao City. He also dared Duterte to welcome a full and transparent investigation if Davao really has nothing to hide. This is Mia Layagin for Eurotv News.
More Filipino families experience hunger in the third quarter of this year, according to the latest survey by social weather stations. Mia Layagin returns.
The social weather station reported an increase in the number of Filipino families that experienced hunger during the third quarter of 2025. Based on SWS September report, 22% of Filipino families have experienced involuntary hunger, the state of being hungry or not having anything to eat during the last 3 months. This rate is higher compared to the 16.1% record on June 2025, coming from a downward hunger trend on the last 3 months. On this number, 5.2% are categorized under severe hunger, with often or always experiencing hunger higher than of June's 3.3%. 16.7% experienced moderate hunger or having nothing to eat at least once or few times during the last 3 months. This is also higher compared to June's 12.8%. The highest hunger rate was recorded in Metro Manila with 25.7%, followed by Balanced Luzon with 23.8%, 19.7% in Mindanao, while 17.7% in Visayas. During the same period, hunger rate in Mindanao spiked the highest from its 9.7% record in June. On the other hand, hunger rate among self-rated poor Filipino families also increased on September. In September, 50% of Filipinos rated themselves as poor. 41% of them are food poor.
When sought for a reaction, Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro attributed the increase in hunger rate due to the consecutive calamities that hit the country.
Sunod-sunod ang kalamidad naranasan ng mga kababayan po natin. Ito po ay nakaapekto po ito sa patuloy po na pagtatrabaho ng ating pamahalaan, lalong-lalo na po ang DSWD para po maipababa ang hunger rate.
Castro welcomed these results, saying that this will be helpful in the government's approach in addressing hunger and poverty issues in the country. She likewise reiterated that the government continues its programs and measures to attend to the needs of the Filipinos, especially in times of calamity.
Tandaan po natin, hindi naman po tumitigil ang ating pamahalaan sa mga programa tulad ng mga walang gutom program, special feeding program, SIL, at yung binanggit po natin kahapon na tungkol sa mga kahirapan.
This is Mia Layagin for Eurotv News.
The Department of Transportation has suspended for 90 days the driver's license of a police officer caught on video swerving and using a bicycle lane without a helmet. Henry Nicolas tells us more.
The driver's license of a motorcycle rider appeared to be a police officer was suspended for 90 days after being caught on video swerving and traversing the bicycle lane. In addition, using the bike lane, the officer was not wearing a helmet, a clear violation of a traffic laws. According to a statement released by the Department of Transportation, the police officer was wearing his uniform and reckless driving and disregard the safety of other motorists. The bicycle lane is exclusively designated for bikers and not for motorcycle riders. In connection with the incident, the LTO has summoned the driver and the registered owner of the motorcycle to appear on November 14. They are required to explain the incident and show cause why the rider's driver's license should not be permanently suspended or revoked. They must also face charges for violating the mandatory use of motorcycle helmet and disregarding traffic sign. Acting Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez emphasized that there is no place on the road for undisciplined motorists. He stated that the agency continues to act on the President's reminder to always enforce road discipline and adhere to traffic laws for the safety of all road users. In a separate but related incident, the license of a driver who went viral on social media for using blinding taillights on a Toyota Land Cruiser was also suspended for 90 days. This is considered a significant impediment. And hazard to the vision of other motorists on the road. The LTO issued a show cause order requiring the registered owner and the driver of the vehicle to appear and explain the matter. They face potential charges for reckless driving, operating with unauthorized accessories, and improper person to operate a motor vehicle. Secretary Lopez reiterated that the DOTR and LTO will not cease in apprehending defiant and abusive drivers. He reminded all motorists to be disciplined and obey traffic laws at all times for everyone's safety. This is Henry Nicolas for Eurotv News.
14 drug suspects were arrested in separate buy-bust operations across Bulacan on Wednesday, with police confiscating over hundreds of thousands of worth of suspected shabu in various towns and city. Shai Morales has more.
14 drug suspects were arrested in separate buy-bust operations across the province of Bulacan on Wednesday. According to Malolos City Police Station, 3 suspects identified as alias Jello, Echo, and Jovi, which are all residents of Malolos, were apprehended during an operation in Barangay Bangkal at around 7 p.m. Confiscated from the suspects were 8 sachets of suspected shabu weighing 6 grams, valued at 40,800 pesos, along with marked buy-bust money. Meanwhile, 11 more drug suspects were arrested in separate operations in the towns of Santa Maria, San Jose del Monte, Pulilan, Balagtas, and Plaridel. Authorities recovered 16 sachets of suspected shabu amounting to 73,780 pesos. The suspects will face charges for violating Sections 5 and 11, Article 2 of Republic Act 9165, or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. Meanwhile, a man was arrested in a buy-bust operation for selling fake cigarettes in Barangay Santa Rosa 2, Marilao at around 6 p.m. on Wednesday. The suspect, identified as alias Bert, a resident of Barangay Prensa 1, Marilao, was caught with 5 boxes of counterfeit modern brand cigarettes, each containing 50 rims. According to Police Lieutenant Colonel Russell Dennis Riburiando, Chief of the Provincial Intelligence Unit, the suspect will face charges for violating Republic Act No. 7394, otherwise known as the Consumer Act of the Philippines, and Republic Act No. 9211, or the Tobacco Regulation Act of 2003. This is Shai Morales reporting for Eurotv News.
The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed that the remains of an Israeli hostage have been turned over through the International Committee of the Red Cross and now undergoing identification. Son Santiago has the report.
Received Gaza of Israel or Overnight Committee of the Red Cross and are now being examined for identification. If confirmed, there would still be 6 deceased hostages left in Gaza. It can be recalled that under the US brokered ceasefire, Hamas agreed to release all 20 living hostages in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. The group also pledged to return the remains of 28 deceased hostages. However, weeks ago, Israel has accused Hamas of delaying the process, claiming the group is not fully complying with the ceasefire terms. In defense, Hamas said it has been difficult to recover the bodies due to the immense destruction in Gaza. Meanwhile, violence and humanitarian struggles in Gaza have not completely stopped. In separate incidents, the IDF said it targeted 2 Palestinians in central Gaza, claiming they approached an Israeli-controlled area in a threatening manner. In the same event, another Palestinian man was reportedly killed by Israeli fire while collecting firewood nearby, according to international reports. However, the Israeli military said it was not aware of the particular incident. On the humanitarian front, thousands of Palestinian families continue to face severe food shortages and lack of aid. The United Nations stated that humanitarian assistance entering Gaza remains far below the agreed level. According to Reuters, this is after Israel only allowed an average of 145 aid trucks to enter the territory per day compared to the 600 trucks as agreed upon the peace plan. This is Son Santiago for Eurotv News.
And that's the latest news for tonight. You may visit eurotvph.com for more news and information. Once again, I am KRIZZA Lopez.
You can also catch our live broadcast through our social media accounts and via Pinoy Stream channel. I'm ALVIN PELOBELLO. Thanks for joining us. This is Eurotv News Thread. Stay safe and have a good night, everyone.
Dali natin.
Yeah.